Hello friends. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can become an IT contractor in Canada. Since you know that we specialize in taxes and accounting for contractors, especially IT contractors. So I get this question a lot around this topic. And I'm going to be talking, from an accountant's perspective. I'm going to give you the advice from an accountant, because a lot of people reach out to me, they ask me questions and they tell me that, hey, we watched a video or we have read certain blogs, and this is what we know, but as an accountant, what do you think, what we should do and all that, because this is a big decision, and you want to set things straight day one. You want to make an informed decision, and you want to do the right structure, the right legal requirements and all that in place, so that you can concentrate on what you are aspiring to become, all right, which is an IT consultant or IT contractor. Second thing, um, if I'm saying IT contractor, I'm also referring to IT consultants, I'm referring to IT freelancers, incorporated IT contractors, unincorporated IT contractors, IT professionals, self-employed IT professionals. All these terms are interchangeable, used interchangeably, although there are certain differences, but we're not going to go into those. Let's say there's this guy, his name is John, and John decides to become an IT contractor. Maybe he was, he had certain IT skills, and he decides to become a contractor. Now, um, this video again is not going to be about what kind of skills you need to have to become an IT contractor. It could be ERP, it could be CRM, it could be development, app development, it could be, ID security, data, whatever, right? But you just decide to become a contractor. Maybe you were doing a job, now you're thinking of switching to contracting, or you're just starting off and you choose to become a contractor. So we are going to talk about what are the legal requirements in Canada that you have to take care of, and also what are the structural options that you have when you decide to work as a contractor. So let's begin. So this guy John, let's say he's an ERP consultant, and he knows ERP. So he decides to he calls me and asks, hey, I want to become a contractor and no more employment. What should I do? What are my options, and how I should go about those? So the first thing is that a contractor is not an employee. So no more employment. All right. That's the first thing. Now the second thing is, what are the options? So the options are, this guy is gonna be either a self-employed professional. Okay. So when I say self-employed professional, I mean that this he could be IT freelancer. It could be an IT contractor. It could be an IT consultant. All right. So, what does why this is self-employed? I'm going to explain that to you shortly. Now, what should this guy do? What should John do? So John can say that, okay, I have a client, and I'm gonna start working for that client, and I'm gonna stay as a self-employed. All right. Or he can work with multiple clients as a freelancer or as a contractor or as a consultant, right? All of these things come under the umbrella of being self-employed. So starting off, I would say, hey John, what you're gonna do is, are you gonna keep using are you gonna work or take work, accept work on your own name, or are you gonna have another name in under which you're gonna get the work from your clients? So John can say, yeah, I can, do either. So that means he has two options. Number one, his own name, and the second option that he has is get a business name. So if he gets a business name, that means he might need to get a master business license, right? And also he can get a business number. Okay? If he's working under his own name, that means that when he sends an invoice to his client, let's say he worked for 40 hours and during this week, so he's going to send an invoice to the client uh, with his own name on the top, and the client is going to write a check to him, which he's going to take that check to the bank and put that check in his personal account, and that's it. All right, he got the money for the work. If he wants to get a name, for example, he gets a name, it's called Top IT Service, right? So if he gets that name, he has to get a master business license to get the right to use that name on his business cards, on his, represent himself with that name to his clients, and also the invoice that he's going to make to that client is going to be on the is going to be from Top IT Services. All right. And then he can also go to the bank and open up a bank account on this this name, with this name as well. So in that scenario, when the client wants to pay him, they're going to write a check to Top IT Services, the business name. The next thing will be that if he is HST registered, so he might get he might want to get a HST registered. He can get HST registered under his own name, or he can also get the HST registration under the business name as well. Okay, so you know that number 547399 243 RT0001. So that kind of HST number can be registered under his own name or under the business name. Okay, so once he has that, that means he's good, and he can charge or collect HST for his IT consulting or IT contracting business as well. Now, the last thing what would happen is that all this, the tax returns for John are gonna be his personal tax return. Okay, so what that means is that all the income and the expenses, that all the income that he invoiced to the client and all the business related expenses, that information is gonna go into his personal income tax return. So there is no other income tax return he has to file. There is no separate income tax return that he has to file for his business, right? So the income tax return, again, the income tax return is going to be the same that that is his personal income tax return. So his business information is going to go into his personal income tax return. Why? Because the business and John are same entity. Okay, even this could be, if he kind of gets a business name and all that, we can also call it a sole proprietorship as well. All right. So in that scenario as well, the sole proprietorship or self-employed, they don't have a separate income tax return. All that business information, income and expenses, and all the details go into your personal income tax return. All right, which is also called T1. All right, I have explained this in another video, how the taxes work. You can watch that. So that is the, let's say, the option number 1. Now let's go to the option number 2. The option number 2, I would say, hey John, the second option that you have is that you can incorporate. Okay, so when I say incorporate, it means that John can create a corporation, right? And that corporation, and he's gonna do that business under the corporation name. Okay, so now if we incorporate, so I'm just going to write corporate. Actually, I'm going to write incorporate. Incorporate. So which means that he's going to have to register a corporation. It could be a federal or provincial. Okay, now federal and provincial, you can incorporate either, and there is differences. There is pros and cons of incorporating federally or provincially, and we're not going to go into detail of that. But generally, I would say, tell John, because you're an IT contractor and you might be getting work from different provinces and all. So it's better for you to incorporate federally. It's cheaper as well, and it suits better for your business. Once he has the federal corporation, and again, he can incorporate with a name, or it could be a numbered corporation. In Canada, you can have numbered corporation, like just a number and Canada Inc. or something like that, or he can get the same name, Top IT Services, register as a corporation. All right. So once he has that, now what's going to happen is that once John does the work as he was doing here, the same thing, but now the invoice that he's going to send is going to go from the corporation. Okay, so again, he has a corporation now, and then he also registers the HST as well. He gets the number RT0001, that number he gets, and now the invoice that he sends to the client is gonna be under the name of the corporation, not John, but corporation. John is now a representative of that corporation, or a director of that corporation, and actually a shareholder of that corporation. If he owns if he's only the if he's the only owner of the corporation, that means he owns 100% shares of that corporation. The second thing is that now John is I'm gonna say, okay, John, now so that you have registered the corporation, and it's called Top IT Services, and now you can also go and open a bank account for this corporation, because the check that you're gonna get from your client, you're not gonna be able to submit or deposit that into your personal bank account, but you have to have a bank account for the corporation, so the corporation can open up its own bank account. So now the difference over here is that we have two entities. It's a separate entity. So a corporation is a separate entity which can open account, which can bill clients, which can sue clients, which can be sued as well. You know, again, the details I'm not going to go into, but yes, I have another video explaining the differences, and you can watch that. But right here, it's a separate entity. Okay, so John is a separate entity, and his corporation is a separate entity. And now he's billing out the client, he's doing the work under the corporation, and the corporation is billing to the client and getting the money. So now let's say he had one project. He'll be able to do that project as a self-employed under this structure, or he can incorporate and get the same work done under, or deliver the same work under this structure. That is all possible. Now, talking about the taxes, or what happens is that all the income and the expenses, so let's say when I say separate entity, so one is John, that's number one entity, and the other entity is his corporation, Top IT Service Inc. Let's say that's his corporation, right? So these are two separate entities. So now all the income and the expenses. The income is coming from all the invoices you sent to the client, money came in, payments, this and that, all that, and the expenses that you incurred, the business expenses, all that detail is gonna go into income, and expenses are gonna go under the corporation. And you must notice that I didn't put this information over here. When we were working as a self-employed or as a freelancer or as a unincorporated contractor, all that information, income and expenses, was under his own name. Now there is gonna be two different income tax return. Again, two different income tax returns. So John is gonna file his personal income tax return, which is T1. Remember this T1 over here. But for the corporation, there is gonna be a corporation income tax return, which is also called T2. Okay, so the corporation is gonna file its own income tax return, and John is gonna file his own income tax return. So this is very important to understand, that if you have incorporated, if John has incorporated, he is gonna have to take care of the tax return filing for the corporation as well as himself. All right. Now, what is the relation between John and his corporation? That is a separate question. How John is gonna take money from the corporation, that is a separate question as well, because now John can take the money from the corporation either as a salary or a dividend in most cases, almost in most cases, and in all the cases. And he will either be, he can either work as an employee to his own corporation, or he can he can withdraw a profit out of the corporation. Now that is discussed in a separate video in detail, but this is what the relation will be. So now the point, the end point is the same, that John has started to work as a contractor. Over here, he's working as a self-employed contractor or a freelancer, but over here, he's working as a corporation or as an incorporated contractor. Over here, he has to take care of his corporation's tax return as well, income tax return as well, and also the HST. So the HST will be registered under the corporation as well. So he has to take care of two tax returns. One is income tax return, and the second one is HST return. Okay. These income tax return is gonna be his personal as well as corporation, right? So let's say if I'm trying to make it very simple. So total tax return he's taking care of is three. One income tax return for the corporation, second income tax return for himself, and an HST return or GST return. But in this scenario, total income tax return was two. One income tax return for himself, which also carries information about his business income and expenses, and the second one is the HST return or the GST return. These are the structural options that John would have to start or to work as a contractor. Okay. Now there are obviously pros and cons for both options, there could be tax saving in this option, because a lot of people would tell you, hey, why don't you incorporate it? You're gonna save a lot of tax and this and that, and but that's not always the case. All right. So there are multiple factors that you want to consider if you want to incorporate or you want to work as an unincorporated contractor. I have a detailed video on that topic. You can watch that one. But I would say that since I'm talking to John over the phone and I've explained all this, or he's in my office, so I'm going to tell John that, hey, John, if you're just testing the waters and you're just trying out being a contractor and see if it works for you, so I would say don't go for the corporation day one. Just stay as a self-employed and do your work. And if it makes sense to you, then you can always go and incorporate it. incorporate, because incorporation has its own burden. Like you have to do certain accounting related burden, tax related burdens, which is gonna be which sometimes becomes very overwhelming for you. And also, I would say that if you don't have that much income in the beginning, if you don't see a lot of income coming out of contracting, I would say stay self-employed and don't go for corporation. So this is, in a nutshell, this is going to be my advice. So guys, I hope this video helps you understand the concept and how to become a contractor or a IT consultant in Canada. This is the things. These are the things that you need to do, and you are good to go. All right, guys. If you have any further questions, you can always put those in the comment box, and I'll make sure that I answer those. And let us know of your feedback as well. Have a great day. Happy contracting.